My name is Thomas Reed, and I used to live in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town where the houses were close enough to wave, but far enough to keep your secrets. I moved there in late 2019 after a breakup, looking for peace and a place to start over. I thought I found it. The street was calm, filled with retirees and young families. The lawns were well kept, and every evening smelled faintly of barbecue or fresh-cut grass. The house next to mine belonged to a man named Mr. Gable. He was in his early 60s, tall but slightly hunched, with thinning white hair and a quiet way of moving, like he was trying not to disturb anyone. He lived alone. His wife had passed away years ago, and his kids, if he had any, never visited. He wasn't the friendliest neighbor, but he wasn't rude either. Just the kind of man who nodded from a distance but avoided small talk. The first time I saw him up close, I was unloading boxes from my car. He walked over slowly and offered a faint smile. "Moving in?" he asked. "Yeah, Thomas," I said, extending my hand. He shook it lightly. "Gable, welcome." Then he went back to his porch and sat down with his newspaper. That was it. For the next few weeks, we kept to ourselves. I worked long hours from home, and he mostly stayed inside. Occasionally, I'd hear his old radio playing faint country tunes through the open window. Sometimes he'd mow his lawn at odd hours or sweep his porch long after sunset. Nothing alarming, just the habits of an old man who probably didn't sleep well. It was in early spring when I first heard it. The sound of metal scraping against dirt. It was past midnight, and I had just turned off my laptop. At first, I thought it was a stray dog digging near the fence, but when I peeked through my blinds, I saw a dim light in Mr. Gable's backyard. The porch light was off, but a single lamp sat near the ground, throwing a weak yellow glow across the grass. And there he was, Mr. Gable slowly digging a hole. He was wearing his usual gray jacket, even though it was warm. The rhythmic sound of the shovel echoed softly through the night air. I watched him dig for nearly 20 minutes before he stopped, leaned on his shovel, and stared into the hole. Then he turned off the lamp and went inside. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was planting something or fixing a drainage issue. But the next night, I heard it again. This time, around 2 in the morning. Same sound, same pattern. Scrape, lift, toss. The following morning, I walked by his yard on my way to the mailbox. I couldn't resist glancing at the spot where I'd seen him digging. There was no hole anymore, just freshly packed dirt. It looked like it had been smoothed over carefully, too carefully. A few nights later, he started again, but in a different corner of his yard. Now I was uneasy. What could he possibly be doing? It wasn't gardening season, and his yard had no flowers or vegetables, just plain grass. Curiosity got the better of me, and one night, I stepped outside quietly and leaned over the fence. He didn't notice me at first. He was bent over the dirt, breathing hard, the shovel slicing into the ground with mechanical precision. A small pile of earth had already formed beside him. When he finally paused and wiped his forehead, I whispered, "Mr. Gable, you okay?" He jerked slightly and looked up. For a moment, his eyes caught mine in the dim light, and I'll never forget how hollow they looked. "Oh, Thomas," he said softly. "Couldn't sleep." "What are you doing out here?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Just digging. Soil's soft this time of year." Then he went back to work, slower this time, as if to make me lose interest. I took the hint and went back inside, but I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few weeks, his digging became more frequent. Always late at night, always a new hole. Sometimes I'd wake up to the faint scraping, other times to silence, only to find fresh patches of dirt in the morning. I started keeping notes, dates, times, patterns. There was no logic to it. Then one morning, I noticed something different. A smell. It drifted faintly from his yard, musky and sour, like damp soil mixed with something rotten. I told myself it was probably compost or a dead animal, but the unease wouldn't leave me. Around that time, one of our neighbors, a woman named Sarah, who lived 2 houses down, went missing. She was a teacher in her 30s, always friendly, always jogging around the block. The police came by, asking questions, but no one knew anything. I remember glancing at Mr. Gable's house as the officers went door to door. He didn't come outside. The night after Sarah's disappearance, the digging stopped. For almost a week, there was silence. I tried to convince myself I had imagined everything, that Mr. Gable was just eccentric. But then, one night, around 3, I woke up to the sound again. Only this time, it was louder, more desperate. I went to the window and froze. Mr. Gable wasn't just digging, he was dragging something, a large, heavy tarp. It looked dark under the porch light, slick with moisture. He dropped it beside the hole and stood there breathing heavily, looking around. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I backed away from the blinds, afraid he might see me. I called the police that night. I told them I thought my neighbor was burying something in his yard. They sent a patrol car, but by the time the officers arrived, the backyard was spotless. No hole. No tarp, mister. Gable opened the door looking half asleep and confused. I watched from my window as he calmly explained that I must have seen him throwing away old rugs. The officers apologized for disturbing him and left. The next morning, he was sitting on his porch, staring at my house. He didn't smile this time. He didn't even blink, just sat there, watching. That day, I decided to buy security cameras. I installed 2, one facing my front yard and another pointed toward the back fence. That night, I left the lights off and waited. Around 1:30, the digging started again. The camera caught everything. He was in the far corner of his yard, digging another deep hole. When he finished, he went to his shed, brought out something wrapped in plastic, and lowered it in. I could barely make out the shape, but it looked human-sized. I wanted to call the police again, but I hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if it really was just garbage? The next morning, I checked the footage again, but the file was gone. Just static. The rest of the camera feed was intact, except for that one clip. I still don't know how. That afternoon, I came home from work to find an envelope stuck under my door. Inside was a single photo of me standing at my window the night I had watched him. The picture had been taken from his yard. I didn't sleep for 2 nights. On the 3rd night, I heard footsteps on my porch. I grabbed a kitchen knife and crept to the window. Mr. Gable was standing there, staring at my door. He knocked softly, once, then again. "Thomas," he said in a low voice, "we should talk." I stayed silent. After a long pause, he said, "You shouldn't watch people at night. It makes them nervous." Then he turned and walked back to his house. The next morning, he was gone. His car was gone, his curtains drawn. For days, no one saw him. Then, a terrible smell began to spread across the neighborhood. The police came again, this time with a warrant. They dug up his backyard. They found 5 holes. 4 were empty. 1 wasn't. Mr. Gable was never seen again. They said he probably fled before the investigation started. But every now and then, I still hear that sound in my sleep, the slow scrape of a shovel against wet dirt, and I wonder how many more holes there were that no one ever found. And sometimes, when I step outside late at night, I find small patches of freshly turned soil near my fence. Always neat, always smooth. I moved away 3 months later, but even now, when the wind is quiet and the ground feels soft under my feet, I remember his voice. "I'm just making space. You never know when you'll need it."